All right, so today we're going to be going over Pythagorean theorem. This is our Unit 6 mixed practice. So our warm-up, it says Logan drew a right triangle with the side lengths 8, 15, and 17, as shown in the diagram below. Which statement best represents proof that he drew a right triangle? Well, before we start looking at our answer choices, we need to figure out what do we know about a right triangle. So we know when we have a right triangle, we use our Pythagorean theorem, and we know the formula for Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. Okay, we know that a, b, and c represent our legs. So a, b, and c represent our legs, our side lengths. And then we know a squared plus b squared and c squared. So actually a squared, b squared, and c squared represents the area. Okay, so we want to look for which statement is true. Answer choice A says he drew a right triangle because all three sides are different lengths. That has nothing to do with a right triangle. You can have an isosceles triangle with different sides. So we know that statement is not true. Answer choice B says he drew a right triangle because the square of the longest side is equal to the sum of squares of the shorter sides. So the square of the longest side, so the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of squares of the shorter side. So we know sum means to add. So it's saying it's equal to this square plus this square. Okay, that sounds about right. But we're just going to go through our other answer choices and double check. So it says he drew, for answer choice C, it says he drew a right triangle because 8 plus 15 is greater than 17. And the sum of the two sides of the triangle is greater than the third. Well, we know that has nothing to do with proving a right triangle or Pythagorean theorem. Answer choice D, which a lot of us got stuck on, it says he drew a right triangle because the sum of two sides is equal to the third. We know our formula is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, not a plus b equals c. Okay, so answer choice D represents a plus b equals c. Answer choice B represents a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So our answer is B, as in boy. So keep that in mind when you're working with word problems like this, where you're not necessarily solving for Pythagorean theorem, but keep in mind the traits and characteristics of Pythagorean. So first we're going to do a quick little brain dump. So whenever you're taking a quiz or a test, you want to do your assignment, let's write down everything we know about Pythagorean theorem. So we know our formula is a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. We also know that a, b, and c are our legs or side lengths. Okay, we know that a squared, b squared, and c squared represent the area square. We know our hypotenuse is always C, which is always the longest side. So whenever we have a right triangle, remember when we draw our arrow coming from our right angle, when we draw our arrow coming from the right angle, we are always pointing at C, which is our hypotenuse. We're always pointing at C, which is our hypotenuse. Okay, our hypotenuse is the longest side. A is typically your shortest side. Okay, so we know all of this information. We know to draw a picture when we have to label. So let's go ahead and look at our first example. It says an 18-foot ladder is leaned against the wall. If the base of the ladder is 8 feet from the wall, how high up on the wall will the ladder reach? Well, we know the ladder is 18 feet and it's leaned against the wall. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to draw my wall. I know that's the wall. Okay, so the ladder, the base of the ladder is 8 feet away from the wall. So I'm going to draw that and I'm going to label it. Then I am going to draw my ladder. For those of you who visibly, like, really need to see it, here is your ladder. Okay, your ladder is 18 feet. And this is the wall. This is the spot we're looking for. So as you can see, I have a right angle. I'm going to draw my arrow. My arrow points to my hypotenuse. So that means I'm given my hypotenuse and I'm looking for a missing side. So the first thing I'm going to do, I am going to write the letters and write the information that I am given. Or you can fill out your table. Remember, we can always fill out our table. So I'm given A and I'm given C. With that, I'm going to start with my formula. My formula is A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. After that, I am going to substitute. I'm given A. A is 8, so I have 8 squared plus B squared, because I'm looking for B, is equal to 18 squared. Okay? Once I have done that, I am now going to put that in. So I have 8 squared. That gives us 64. Okay, so you have 64 plus B squared is equal to 18 squared. Well, 18 squared is 324. So I have 324. Now I want to get B by itself, so that means I need to do inverse operations. So I'm going to subtract 64 on both sides. What I do on one side, I have to do to the other. That leaves B squared. Okay, so I'm going to do 324 minus 64. And that gives us 260. 260 is B squared. I want to get B by itself, so I'm going to find the square root. Okay, B is equal to the square root of 260. So I'm going to do second x squared. I'm going to put 260 in there. And I get 16.1. I always round to the nearest tenths place. So 16.1, you use the 2. So since it's lower than 5, you keep it as a 1. Okay. Now let's take a look at our second example. It says Jim wants to build a walkway diagonally through a rectangular garden. The garden is 40 feet long and 20 feet wide. What would be the approximate length of the walkway? So we know the walkway is a diagonal. First, I'm going to draw a picture. I have a rectangular garden that is 40 feet long and 20 feet wide. The walkway is a diagonal. Okay, if I draw my arrow, it's pointing to the hypotenuse. So I know I'm looking for C because there is no number there. Okay, so I draw A, B, and C. You can also fill out your table. Have 20, 40, and we're looking for C. Okay? My formula is A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. I am going to substitute. So I have 20 squared plus 40 squared is equal to C squared. Okay? So we have 20 squared, and then we have 40 squared. So 400 and 1600. So 400 plus 1600 is equal to C squared. You follow what the formula says, okay? So now we have 2000 equal to C squared. I'm going to find the square root of 2000. And you get 44.7. So 44.7 is the approximate length of C. Okay, so I go back, reread. I'm looking for the approximate length of the walkway. I found the approximate length of the walkway because it's diagonal. There's nothing else for me to solve, so I'm going to go ahead. I have answered my question, circle my answer. Last but not least, a rectangle has a length of 12 inches and a width of 9 inches. What is the length of the diagonal? So I draw my rectangle with the diagonal 12 and 9. A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. So I have A, B, and C. I'm looking for C. A is 9, B is 12. So 9 squared plus 12 squared is equal to C squared. 81 plus 144, okay, is equal to C squared. So you put 81 plus 144, you get 225, and you find the square root of 225, which should be 15. Okay, so 225 is equal to C squared. Find the square root. C is equal to 15. So the length of the diagonal is 15. Now you're going to go ahead and complete your assignment, which is the quizzes. Please take your time. Make sure you are answering the question. Remember, if it asks for perimeter, that means you need to find your missing side first and then add all of the sides together. If it asks for area, that means you're looking for A squared, B squared, or C squared. If it's the side length, it's A, B, or C. So go ahead and complete your assignment.